Good evening, everybody. Matt Geary here for the Geek Pride cast on this Sunday evening. No guest tonight, and apologies for our we will not been around for a few weeks, actually, to be fair. So it is just myself, and with me tonight, Pete.
Hey, how you doing, everyone?
So, Peter, what's going on? What have you been doing? What's up? What's been up for the last, I don't know, when was our last podcast?
Well, I think the last time that I was on personally was about a month ago in October, and a fair bit's going on. I mean, we are now entering the silly season, as I call it, which is like, the Christmas, and everything just ramps up, threefold. Just everything seems to happen at once, and yeah, it's just basically one thing after another, trying to keep up with see the family, get as much done as we can. My dad's quite ill, so we can try and get down up there as much as we can, but he lives 150 miles away. And on top of that, I've been getting quite a few board games from Gale Force 9, so thank you guys. Review coming, and we'll talk about that later. And I've also been trying to catch up on The Expanse. Now, I've already watched The Expanse, but with the new season starting about
final season,
sixth and final season, but there is possible hints that we might see films afterwards.
Really?
Yep.
Ooh, interesting.
Now we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Because it does tie into like how the structure of the books, of the later books, to be fair. But yeah. So I'm as a kind of preparing myself to kind of watching the final season, I'm kind of just watched all 5 seasons before, and it's still great. There's loads of kind of foreshadowing and callbacks when you know what's coming. So I know what that means. Like, but yeah, again, we'll talk about that later. But yeah,
I was going to say you're splurging straight away, straight in there, no preamble, no
well, that's me. I just dive straight in and go like no kind of flirting or anything.
Okay.
No foreplay, just straight in.
Well, before we before we go in dry, as it were, so like general catch up. Because you haven't even been around for D&D recently.
Basically, like as many I'm a freelance writer and journalist and stuff, and like unfortunately, a very big job came in, and it's just been taking up all my time. And basically, I was referred to by a client. This new client came to me after referred to me by another client of mine, so I'm kind of like on the extra point, as it were, because like I'm also representing my existing client as well, because I don't want to kind of have them kind of go, oh, this Pete wasn't the one who wanted, so I'm kind of like doing that a little bit extra, but it has just kind of maxed out my time massively at the moment.
What is it? Is it something you can talk about?
I can talk about it vaguely. I've not signed any NDAs, but there is that understanding that it's a corporate client. I'm basically doing their website and blog posts for them, and it's kind of subcontracting job as well. And it doesn't help that my client doesn't fully understand what their client does, because the boss needs to bring like a technical journalist and writer, which is what I do, and I'm kind of like translating their vagaries of something inspirational into something actually legible and readable and actually makes sense. But it's quite okay. I mean, so that's what
you've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, I was in London. That would have been 10 days ago, a week last Thursday, for a cybersecurity conference. And like it's something I've been to, but it's pre-plague, and like it's done every 4 to 6 months, and like the first time since we've all been together since the plague, and the first thing anyone says to me, "Oh, you've not cut your hair yet, have you?" Like, no. This is like cybersecurity. These are guys are like, they know the stuff. They've been in security for 25 years. They were there at ground zero, and the first thing anyone says is, "Yeah, it's still long, isn't it?" Like, yep, it's still long. It ain't going anywhere. And one thing I absolutely loved, we're in the middle of this kind of discussion on cybersecurity, the future of security, the shape of it, what it comes. And then we start talking about Charlie Stross.
Right. Okay.
Basically, they're going like, hey guys, anyone know Charles Stross? And I was like, yes, I do actually. I know Charlie. I've had beers with him. which kind of threw them a bit, and said, well, so we kind of start talking about Accelerando, where the future society is more, the most valued commodity is bandwidth and data, rather than currency. And we're also talking about halting state, which essentially predicted NFTs by 10 years.
Yeah, I was talking to I was looking at NFTs and stuff for all those who don't. It's non-fungible tokens. Yeah, non-fungible tokens. So basically, you're selling one-offs, and a lot of those sort of kind of YouTube.
Not exactly one-offs. They are a digital representation of something that you own, technically, kind of.
So that but like the stuff that they're selling, so you got these like board monkeys, which are sort of kind of quite popular at the minute. There's some other bits and pieces and stuff. I'm trying to get my sister to do some because she's an artist, and I'm obviously you have to sort of, the right people have to be on board to sort of, for you to make any sort of money, but you never know. All it takes is for one of them to kind of go, I like that, and some of them are making pure till, granted it's all cryptocurrency, but still.
This is something that's very in its infancy, very much so. My personal point is wait and see what happens. There's an argument to say get in quick, but it's very risky and it's very volatile.
So what's the risk on it then?
You pay money and you don't get back.
Yeah, but there's anything with regards to investment and stuff. It's just
exactly like with anything, it's a volatile investment.
True, but I'm saying for selling purposes, if you're buying, granted, you have to buy Ethereum, and stuff, and it's sort of, I don't know what it is, like $1,000 or something for an Ethereum or something. It's something along those lines, expensive. So you are having to spend a bit of money to do that, but I guess in anything like that, you have to speculate to accumulate and everything. So it's like any other sort of kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, what would your sister sell? What would the buyer be owning?
Artwork, digital artwork. She used to do digital artwork, actually.
Oh, how is that any different to your sister selling an image to that person?
Because she would generally sell prints, what she generally does is she sell prints, limited runs of prints, and then sells the original for a lot of money. So the original will be like, the prints will cost like anywhere between 90 and 100 quid or something like that, whereas the original, you're looking £3,000 to £5,000 maybe for an original piece. Whereas granted, if she did something digitally, it takes slightly less time. There's not the cost behind it, bar obviously sticking on the. Now,
how would the owner of the NFT be able to prove that is the case, that he owns that image?
But sure, is that not the case? You use, so from what I understand about NFTs, is you have specific marketplaces you go on. Now, I don't know a lot about it, so it's literally a case of you go onto a specific marketplace. Those people have uploaded those things onto the marketplace, and then you buy and sell through that marketplace. It's like an eBay / thing, and I guess it's sort of accepted. I don't know if you have to sign any sort of any documents or anything to say that it's a one-off or whatever. You can actually do them where it's not one-off, but I don't think they're worth as much. But the one-offs themselves are the ones that are making literally millions of pounds or millions of dollars even. And that's where all the YouTube stars and stuff are sort of going around and hoovering them up at the minute and stuff.
Yeah, again, I would be cautious. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I think your sister should definitely investigate this and look at it further. I mean, and like, I love your sister's artwork. She does fantastic artwork. I keep being tempted to kind of. That's a really good. That's a really good drawing, and I can see why she does get into exhibitions. It's just. I mean, as much as I like kind of cover security, technology, and all that, and like, I'm always kind of looking to the future, I am a pragmatist at art, and I never trust version 1.0 ever.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It was like
I remember Betamax.
Yeah, I remember Betamax as well. We had a Betamax and stuff. I think one of the first films I ever watched on Betamax was Karate Kid. I think we had a Karate Kid on it. And I remember the Betamax had this sort of like, it was I just remember this big silver sort of kind of like thing, and loaded from the top, and you like sort of put the thing in and you load it from the top. But
yeah, I mean, another actually better example would be MySpace.
MySpace went on for a fair amount of time, to be fair.
It did.
The thing, I think MySpace's problem, what happened with MySpace was like, because everybody used MySpace. The thing with MySpace was there was no controls over spam, basically.
The formatting, there was no control of a standardized uniform format. Yeah. And people would kind of come up with the most hideous profile pages they could. And it was just, obnoxious to look at in the end.
Yeah, it just became like, I had friends, like we had a band page on it, and it was just people were just using it to spam their businesses and stuff, and it just got so bloated with that, and then obviously Facebook came about, and it was a bit more streamlined and a bit more sort of like uniform. Yeah.
It was more uniform, standardized, and easier on the eye, to be fair.
Yeah, and that's where it sort of kind of fell off a cliff, basically, and stuff. But there's loads of them. Like there was one called Face Party, I remember, which was similar, and there was a few others and stuff. I can't remember them, but Bebo. Do you remember Bebo?
Yeah.
There's Bebo and Face Party and loads of other ones. When I was in university, they were all the rage. But yeah, I think it's like with the it's like, yeah, I appreciate that. What's it called? Bitcoin sort of kind of fell through its arse and stuff, and I think it's brought itself back up a bit, but it again,
that is another very volatile market. It peaks and troughs all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, what I find in music at the moment is you can now got like various kind of cyber cryptocurrencies out there, like JRR tokens.
Okay.
Which the Tolkien family are just, suing to high heaven, and justifiably so. And there was, just every kind of major figure or franchise is getting kind of some kind of cryptocurrency made about them. It's just,
Well, I remember being offered crypto, Bitcoin ages ago. I can't even remember why it was. But I remember, I guess it was a couple of them for I don't know, maybe I'd done something, or it was just like, oh, I've got Bitcoin. Do you want some Bitcoin? And I was like, I don't know what the hell that is. No. I turned it down, but I was just like, I remember a few years back when it was at its height, and I was just like, I am so gutted I didn't have that, because it was, even a couple of them were, a few grand and stuff, and I was just like, fuck, that would have been good. But so yeah, I understand. I don't have enough nous about me to sort of, I don't have enough understanding, I think, to sort of kind of do it properly. I think if you understand it, you could probably sort of, weather it a lot better. But yeah, there's that thing about the guy who when Bitcoin first came out, and he ordered a pizza, and he says, I will pay you. I've only got Bitcoin, and the guy at the end of the phone went, all right, he basically took the Bitcoin and paid for the pizza himself. And it was like, I'll give you like 500 Bitcoin or something like that for a pizza. And then the guy, but the thing is, it showed you like his conversation before to the pizza guy, and then his like tweet and stuff a few years on, when he was like mortified that it was worth sort of, like thousands. He bought a pizza.
Again, it's very volatile, and again, I think if you're lucky enough to kind of get in when it's cheap and then sell when it's high, you're making $1 million. You're going to make a ton. But any slight delay, and you could very easily lose that same amount. So
yeah,
again,
it's like any investments you kind of need to be long term with it and stuff, and just be able to sort of soak up any sort of damage that comes with it.
You never ever invest when you cannot lose.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But yeah, okay, that was a bit of a diversion. You might say, actually, my sister has these sort of I've been mithering her for years to do them. Like, she did this thing, like she used to do when she first started doing her artwork. She used to do digital stuff, so she used to do website design. She did a music video for a band in Northern Ireland as well, and she did like a lot of digital stuff before she did her sort of her art that she does now. But she did these sort of like t-shirts designs, and there was 2 sets of them. Ones which were sort of like cute women, kind of along the same lines as her artwork she does now. But she did another series called Dead Cute, and it was basically like teddy bear versions of, you know, like rabbits and bears and things like that, but they were like, they all had cross eyes and stuff, like they were dead and things, and it was just sort of like, it was cutesy, but sort of kind of, I thought it tied in quite well with the sort of kind of alternative market, and I was like, you should totally do that. I would, they're awesome looking. I think, you know, you could get them in loads of these sort of alternative shops, and I was saying you should maybe do that for like an NFT and stuff like that, or something like that, or even just get them on. But she's been sort of umming and ahhing about it recently. I think she's come along to it a bit more. But
I mean, there's even kind of put those designs on a t-shirt site and see what the take-up is.
Yeah, I've got a Teespring, and I could say, you know, I'll just stick them on a Teespring and stuff, and then just see what happens and stuff. You know, in the end,
I want one. They sound great. I want one.
Yeah, they're just. I thought they were really good, and she just sort of kind of got bored of them, and this was like easily early 2000s and stuff, and she hasn't sort of looked, but she's got them somewhere. I'm sure she's got a hard drive with them on them somewhere and stuff. She's just not sort of she's just not done it. So I guess it's just trying to persuade her to do it and stuff. Like, I remember saying to her years back about, you know, I was unemployed, and I was like, yeah, we'll go into a t-shirt business or something, we'll make some t-shirts and stuff, and you could design them and I'll sort of market it or whatever. And yeah. Okay. Preamble over. We can shoot straight into what we're here for. So the Expanse has got a 6th series coming out.
Yes.
Expanse has got a 6th series coming out. Advert, I just saw the trailer for it. Looks awesome. Looks really good. For those of you who haven't seen the Expanse, don't know what we're talking about, watch it. Or read the books. It's so good. I remember I've been hammered by these guys in some of my other WhatsApp groups and stuff for years about watching it. And the only reason I didn't watch it was because I thought it's on Sci-Fi, where it was originally on Sci-Fi. It's on Amazon now, but it was on Sci-Fi. It's just like, it's just going to be naff. I don't, you know, it's going to be like Sharknado in space, and I didn't think about it. But it's so good. It's so good. It's just like, and it's just like the sort of kind of science behind of it's being really thought out as well.
Yeah,
and it's like
the battle. Like, for me, the season really kicks off. That's like the series itself as a whole kicks off with the 4th episode. There's build up, like the first 3 episodes, and then basically the episode CQB happens, which is the attack on Donninger, and that is the most realistic space battle I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's good. I just love the fact that because when I was watching it, and I was just like, they seem to be going backwards towards planets, and I couldn't understand at the time. I was just like, why the hell are they going backwards? And then it clicked. I went, because of inertia, because once they sort of, if you set something going in a void, it'll just keep on going and stuff. You have to actually sort of kind of reverse yourself to sort of, you know, slow down and stuff. So all the spaceships slow down by going back into sort of towards planets and stuff, and it's just like so good, and it's just like, that makes so much sense, and it's just the idea of it is great. There's none of these shields, and even the sort of the space travel and stuff is like,
it takes time,
and it takes a, you know, they have to have specific, you know, certain sort of like stuff pumped into their body and stuff, so they
it's called the juice, and basically it's essentially amphetamines to keep them awake and conscious and cognitive during high speed maneuvers.
Yeah.
Again, that's what you need to do in a combat situation.
Yeah, and they've all got like rail guns and stuff, and it's just sort of like, this,
Yeah,
and they just
there's
punch.
basically there's such a few weapons. There's the torpedoes, there's railguns, and then there's PDCs, point defense cannons. No shields, no like deadly bolts of light, just guns, and guns that shoot missiles, armor plating, and that's it. There's nothing else. If a bullet hits, it goes through the ship until it hits something or someone and keeps going.
Yeah. It's great. That's great. That's such a good series and stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. Like the fifth season had, I think people had a bit of a moan at it because it sort of kind of lost its way slightly. But I thought it was,
Yeah, the fifth season worked quite well because it was all about the different what the crew of the Rocinante do when they are split up.
Yeah,
you've got Holden on the Rocinante doing his thing, but Naomi is gone elsewhere. Amos is going to Earth, Boston, to kind of for the funeral of his carer, his adopted carer, and Alex has gone back to Mars to kind of patch things up with his wife and family, and then that kind of kicks off a series of interlinked adventures for each of them. I mean, and overall it was good. I really enjoyed it. My only complaint was I thought the bit with Naomi, Dominic Tipper, in the she's played by, it did pull credibility a bit, like the whole like manipulation of her and the kind of keeping her around. But I'm trying to be very obtuse because I don't want to spoil it all, but that did stretch a bit. And when they kind of trying to play with her and manipulating her and everything, it just felt, well, this feels a bit too done for drama rather than for necessity. All the rest of it was great. What Amos got up to, that revealed a lot more about his character. Same with Alex as well. I mean, like he goes trying to patch things up with his family, it doesn't work, and he gets been brought in this whole investigation and teams up with Bobby, which is like a fantastic partnership.
Yeah.
And you also got Holden, played by Stephen Strait, wondering, like, no, now he's got all his user crew. He's got all these other people he's got to deal with who don't know what he does or how they all operate. But he does introduce Bull, who was from the books, and I really like that character.
See, I haven't read the books. The thing is, I'm slowly getting through. Like my boss, he like reads a lot, and he's perpetually getting me into like new sort of kind of series of books and stuff. So it is some of the ones. It is ones I need to sort of kind of read. I think because the series is so good. So I think the books, the
books are exceptional, and the series is moderately faithful to the books. There is some deviation in terms of characters. So they kind of condense characters down for the purpose of the television series, well, before you got a much broader cast in the books.
Yeah.
For example, Cohen, the camera guy, Monica Stewart's camera guy, in the books, that's actually 3 people.
Right, okay.
But yeah, but overall, broadly faithful, I'd say. Yeah,
okay,
and all the better for it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm glad it's sort of ending as well, because saying the last series, but spoiler alert, anybody who's sort of not seen it, sort of close your ears and stuff now and stuff. But the death of I've forgotten his name, pilot.
Alex,
death of Alex and stuff, which was obviously brought about by sort of the actors, sort of
actual Cassandra's been,
the allegations against them and stuff, and there's sort of, so they dealt with that. But I thought it worked in a way because you didn't actually have any of the main characters being killed.
And if they didn't if there wasn't a price they had to pay, that goal that they, what they achieved would have felt empty in a sense, because there also has to be a price. And like there's something to say at the start, all these high G and all this juice is going to do damage to us.
Yeah, and I think they dealt with that quite well, because in a lot of things like that, it was a bit of a shock. And it's literally this happens and he dies, but it's like it ties in quite well with the theme of the series and the sort of the fact that, you know, it's plausible and that was the risk that could happen, and unfortunately he rolled the dice and that happened, and I thought it was a good way out.
And let us not forget that Holden has had a fatal dose of radiation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he has to keep taking anti-radiation meds just to keep him going. And you can see like there's an increasingly almost gaunt look to his face.
Yeah.
As the series goes on, because, you know, he has got a fatal dose of radiation. And again, they kind of recognize the fact, you know, these are people are not immortal. There's no magic medicine. You can't just magic away, you know, radiation. There's iodine you can take to kind of absorb some of it.
Yeah.
But if you get a fetal dose of radiation, it's you know, that's going to really quite badly affect you. But like, I love the fact that all of these foreshadowings to kind of laying the groundwork at the very start for what's to come. So I mean, when Christian Avasarala, who has to be one of the best politicians ever, she has some of the best dialogue I have heard on screen for a long time. I mean, I want to read a book that says the wit and wisdom of Christian Avasarala, because that would just be an absolute blast. But yeah, but like at one point, she's like on the roof of her home with her grandson, and she kind of like, you know, they're talking about, you know, like the space battle that's going on off in the stars, and the boy kind of says, "Oh, so people are throwing rocks at each other." And it's like, this isn't the first season. I'm just going to say, yes, they're throwing rocks at each other. It's when they start throwing rocks at us that's when I get worried.
Right.
Once again, 5 seasons, that's what starts happening. I'm going into details, and that's a really nice nod. And also, like, another nod to the fans, which kind of just made me smile a bit, and but also true to the character as well, is when they first get the Tachi, and trying to form up a name, which eventually choose the name of the Rocinante. Alex's first comment is "Screaming Firehawks" for the name, and like, I think it's Holden. It might have been Naomi, because let's not come up with a name that says gunship. But again, 5 seasons later, Alex is in the Razorback, right, which is this kind of high speed shuttle. No, basically, it's essentially a 2 seats with a huge ass rocket on the back.
Yeah.
And basically, and Alex is piloting it. Now it screams past and says the Razorback. Then Razorback kind of is erased and puts Screaming Firehawk. Which again is what he would do if he was in control of a ship and had the choice of renaming it. He'd go Screaming Firehawk.
Yeah.
So again, it's like little nods to the character, and like, you know, and just
I think
paving the way down.
I think the characters in it are really good as well. Alex, you know, it's a shame that, you know, whatever's happening, he's not going to sort of be in it anymore, because I quite liked him. Amos, what a deep character. He's so
Amos starts as like the thug. Starts out as the muscle and thug, but then kind of the series goes on to start peeling back the layers of his character and find out what made him. So he's like, you know, at some point, like, he's completely fit. He has no compassion, no empathy at all, and you know, he's just like when someone's been when he's going to be violent, he's completely shut down. No kind of rage or aggression or snarling. It's just blank, and that is even more terrifying.
They mentioned that there's a bit in it where he's sort of trying to get around his lack of empathy, basically. I can't remember what series it's in, but he's sort of like, he's talking, I can't even remember, it's been so long since I watched it now, where he's basically talking to somebody and he's basically going, you know, why don't I feel anything and stuff, and he's just trying to understand himself, basically. But as a character, he's just so good. I think he is so good, and it's like, because there's lots of different edges to each one of them, so like oh fuck, I can't remember half their bloody names now. This is really bad.
Well, Naomi Nagata is driven by a child.
Yeah.
and she wants to kind of get back to that. That's kind of underlying motive for her. Amos is like, he doesn't care, but the fact is he does care. He wants to be a good person, but he knows he doesn't know how to be a good person. So he kind of looks to the others to kind of make the decisions for him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But when Naomi betrays them, he's suddenly like, I can't trust people to make my decisions. So he starts kind of backing off of it, because initially it was Naomi.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when he starts kind of like shutting down a bit, and it's he just kind of like just working purely on automatic, just doing exactly what he's told, and like he's just basically like pushing people around, and just a kid pushes it back and goes, "You're a bad man." And you see this little kid, 5 years old, pushing the huge hulking Amos around, and suddenly he's shocked that he's been called a bad man.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was a lovely little scene. And he starts looking to other people for be his moral compass, like Prax and what was it? Anna, the pastor.
Yeah, yeah.
And I find it very interesting that those were the two people that he really looked to outside the crew. Anna was like, this gentle person who kept saying, no, why are you hurting people? Why? There is a better way. You don't need to hurt people. And you can see Amos thinking, okay, someone who's talking non-violence is actually a good person. And the same with Prax. I mean, that wonderful scene, I think the third season, where they're kind of rescuing Prax's daughter and the rest of the children. And they finally captured the person that captured
the scientist, yeah.
Exactly, the scientist. And Praxis goes in to kind of like essentially kill him. But Amos goes up and goes, "You're not that man. You are not that man."
Yeah,
and he does that like because he knows if Prax kills that person, he will be forever changed. He will become like Amos, and that's the last thing Amos wants.
I forgot about that bit. That's so good. Yeah.
He pushes out Prax, and Strickland thinks he's been saved. Goes, "Oh, thank you," and just the look that Amos gives that goes, "I am that man."
Yeah.
And he's just like, he can see Strickland's face go, "Oh." Just suddenly, it goes from jubilation to outright, "Oh," it's gone from bad to worse.
You said about films and stuff. You said they were moving into films. So how are they going to, where are they going to go from it?
Okay, well, this is purely conjecture, supposition, hints, illusions, so nothing has been set in concrete. So that's the caveat out of the way.
Yeah.
Now, the books jump forward about 30 years.
Okay.
They basically moved the adventure along. Now, the cast and crew will be much older then. And actually, in fact, the books do change around the characters quite a lot. They look at different viewpoints, and there's a big shift. So they could very easily just continue the story in the same universe, but using the completely different characters.
See, that's sort of, this ties into, like, I've just finished listening to the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. Which is phenomenal. It's 2006, I think, is the original one, but they've literally the second trilogy has just ended. The third book from the second trilogy has just come out last month. Because my boss was banging on about it. But the first series is you got certain characters and stuff, and it's one of these series where I think if you'll read the first book or listen to the first book as I did, and you'll go, "I'm not getting this," and then it gets better, but then stuff doesn't happen that you expect, and then the third book literally ties everything together, and you're going, "Oh my god, this was so freaking amazing." But apparently in the second trilogy, they've moved forward sort of like 30 odd years, and as much as there are sort of kind of nods to certain characters that were in the first trilogy, it's like the daughters or sons of the ones who were there for the new trilogy and stuff. And that, for me, because I really enjoyed the first trilogy, I was just like, oh my god, it's amazing. Like, I love it. But I was like, I don't know if I can deal with the new trilogy. I don't know if I can do the new trilogy when the people are different. It sort of upsets me slightly, because especially the first trilogy doesn't sort of it doesn't end on a high note, and it doesn't end with characters sort of getting what they're meant to get and stuff. So I kept on going, Pete, while you were putting wood.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just basically saying that because the character, I was a bit unsure about sort of starting a new trilogy with new characters, because the original trilogy, it doesn't, because it's a really dark set of books, and basically there's no happy ending to it. It literally is just sort of...
There's a reason why Joe Abercrombie's Twitter line is Lord Grimdark, because he is kind of at the forefront of the kind of grimdark fiction subgenre. And yeah, he writes very brutal books, like very uncompromising.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, but it's like, there's his characters, and this is why I love, and that's why I like Game of Thrones and, stuff like that. I like, and the 40K stuff, the horror side, I like characters which have edge to them, that are darker. They've got, maybe you kind of understand them, but they've got this darker edge to them. And it's like Logan, who's like the Bloody Nine. He goes from being this guy who's a warrior who wants to sort of do good, turning into a homicidal, literally a guy who kills his friends in battle because he turns into somebody completely different. And it's just like there's just two opposite. You get sort of taken away by, it's like, oh, he's a nice guy, I really like him, and then he does something that he turns into the Bloody Nine, and he's just like, oh shit.
Have you read any Robin Hood by any chance?
No.
That is very similar. She's like, the Realm of the Enderling setting has had about at least 12, possibly 15 books in this kind of epic story. And it starts out with the kind of the Farseer trilogy, Assassin's Apprentice, Royal Assassin, and Assassin's Quest. And then, but then it kind of shifts locals completely and go into the live ship traders. Okay. And brings in an entire new set of characters that is happening concurrently with what's happening in the realm, in the Farsi books. And that was really weird and kind of off-putting. Now, it didn't help at the time that I was quite ill and was having to... so it kind of, that colored my perception of it. My wife clearly loves them. She prefers them to the kind of the Farsi books. Because Robin Hood has got a fantastic, art to her writing. Like, it's very descriptive, very kind of immersive. But she is absolutely unrelenting when it comes to putting her characters through the ringer. Fitz Farseer in the first books, he is like physically, mentally, and psychically battered and completely assaulted. Right. And she doesn't hold back, the characters are hurt, and there is kind of some magical-ish healing, but things leave a mark. There's always a scars behind it. There's never kind of completely healed. They do get battered and bruised throughout, which kind of slows them down and just hurts them. And literally, it takes them 3 months to heal after battle. The one
it's sort of. I like I said, I like it when there's edge and there's more realism, and one thing that's sort of what gets me is so when I was reading Game of Thrones, you had basically 3 books that were all about the same sort of characters, and you got to know granted loads of them died and you got very upset about it, but then you got A Feast for Crows, which suddenly changed into a group of people who you didn't really relate to, and you didn't understand, and as much as it has its sort of place, I didn't enjoy it that much and stuff, as towards the end, sort of, because it was filling in certain things, but it felt like, in like The Walking Dead, they've got a lot. They've got the really good episodes at the start, and then in the middle, and at the end, and then there's the filler in between, and then it just felt like that.
Misery porn, basically.
Yeah, and I just don't sort of this is what I like when I've built up a relationship with characters. Some of them might die, but at least there's sort of there's a theme there, and I can go along with them. The thing about the what worries me about the Joe Abercrombie books going into the second First Law trilogy. Now, apparently, there's 3 independent books which have some of the main characters in them, sort of like ish. But going on to this sort of next trilogy, I've built up a relationship with Giselle and with Logan and with Glockter, and they're all sort of got their own sort of and Pharaoh, and Pharaoh sort of disappears off in the end of the series, and Logan something happens to him, and Giselle's basically, I can't without ruining it for people and stuff, but all this stuff happens to these people, and you're like, I want to know what happens next, and it doesn't. Technically it doesn't really give you that. From what I've read about the next series, it's about their sons and their daughters and some other random people and stuff, and I'm just like, I kind of want to what happens, what's going on, but I guess that's where it gets you and stuff. I'm just a bit wary about sort of new characters being involved, because it took the thing about the first book, I was like, I don't know who the hell these guys are, and it took me ages to get into it because there were so many different names and they were doing all these things, and you're dropped into basically Glockter torturing somebody, and the guy's torturing actually ends up towards the end and stuff, and it's just like the thing is, it all ties in, but it takes you a while to sort of kind of to get into it, and I just don't want to go through that again, because one, I'm engaged with these characters. I feel like I can listen to it more, whereas at the start of the first book I was like, I don't know who these people are, I have no investment in them, and it took me a while to get into it, and I kind of don't want to have to do that again. I want to be able to go, well, this is where they are and what's happening, and then I was like, oh, but it's new characters and I'm gonna have to get to know them and blah 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 blah.
I would think Joe Abercrombie is a fantastic writer, so I think you can trust him that he knows what he's doing. There's a reason why he's made the decision that he has for the purpose of the plot. So I would just see what he's planning with this story and where he's going to go with it.
Yeah. Well,
so I would get past your kind of reservations and actually just give it a chance to see where it goes, because I can guarantee you, someone of kind of Joe Abercrombie's caliber, they know what they're doing, and they're going to make the payoffs.
Yeah, well, I've no doubt. Because, not only loads of people bang on about it. My boss, he's read all of them, like all 9 books and stuff. So he's sort of like been on it. So I've no doubt. It's just obviously myself kind of going, I kind of want to know what's going on. But the thing is, as an author, it started off like the second book for me, on its own, as a standalone on its own, I was just like, what an anticlimax, because it basically, without ruining it for anybody, they're going on they go on a quest and then they don't find anything, and then they just disband, and that's it.
That's the kind of the middle book.
Yeah, and then it's like, and I'm just like, all right, so that nothing really happened, and it was just like, but the thing is, it's like Lord of the Rings. Technically, Lord of the Rings is 3 books, and it's sort of, but you read it as one, and I get the impression that it's the same sort of thing. It's just a part of, the First Law is just 3. That first trilogy is 3 parts of a single book in theory, and once it all ties up at the end, and the thing is, my boss says he signposts stuff the whole way through, and you don't realize, and then at the end, sort of, Baez, who's sort of basically he's sort of like Gandalf, but a bit of a shithead, he basically goes, this happened, and you're like, oh shit, that did happen, and it sort of kind of ties in. So he's obviously thought about this throughout, because there's bits in the first book that are completely, you don't think about, and they're insignificant to you, but they sort of tie in with the whole sort of theme at the end, when this happened, and I'm just like, oh my god, yeah, you're right, that did happen, and like, holy shit, and that's how this is happening, and this is why this is going on, and oh my god, yeah. So yeah, so good. Like, I was so impressed with it. So I'm going to finish off. I'm currently listening to Warhawk, which is book 6 of the the Siege of Terror ones, I think, at the minute. So I'll finish that off, and then I'll go into the second trilogy, I think, of the First Law trilogy and stuff. I might listen to some of the standalones first and then go into that stuff. But yeah, so good. Like, I'm gutted I didn't read them earlier. It's one of those ones where it's like, it was the same with Game of Thrones, to be honest. I didn't read them as they came out. I literally read them because they were filming it in my backyard in Northern Ireland, and I was like, I'll give them a go then. And I read all of them in 2 weeks, basically.
Well, I mean, I watched the Game of Thrones first, and then I forgot about the fourth or fifth season, and I picked up the first book, Game of Thrones, from the local library, and I really enjoyed it. Now, since then, I kind of come to learn that George R.R. Martin's approach to writing is less than, how could we put this, swiftly, shall we say. And he's busy going off and writing other things, and it kind of made me disinclined to kind of continue reading the rest of the books, because, well, if he's not finished the story, then is he ever going to finish the story? So why do you want to keep reading when the story will not finish?
Let's see, Dance for Dragons was 2005, 2000, let's see, Dance for Dragons, when did that come out? 2000, when was it out? 2011. Yeah. 2011, right? So 10 years. It's taken him 10 years, and he hasn't written the next book, finished with the next book.
Yeah, I've read this kind of very interesting theory about it, which is basically he's written himself into a corner, and he can't work out how to get himself out of it.
What's that?
And he's kind of...
Right, what's the corner?
Basically, like in terms of plot.
Oh, okay.
Like the characters, and he's trying to work out how to kind of get them to where he needs them to be, and I think that's almost why he kind of wanted to see where the series was going to go. Like, so how are they going to come up with this? And we saw what they did, and it was a complete clusterfuck.
Well, well, the thing is, and I understand why, because he's making a complicated book, and the thing is, the series realized that they had 3 seasons of complexity and really good sort of character development writing, and then they realized that they needed to sort of start tailing things off, so they started cutting corners, and they started sort of kind of shortening things down.
They started writing it for themselves rather than adapting George R. R. Martin's work. And at that point, you can tell that's when the wheels started to come off.
Yeah, and I think he's realizing that there's still a complicated book. Now it's meant to be a Winds of Winter and then a Song of Summer, and it's meant to be, those are the 2 books that are meant to be finished. So Winds of Winter is the next one, which he's been saying is meant to be coming out for forever, but it hasn't. And then the Song of Summer, but then maybe he's realizing that he's not going to be able to finish it in that amount of time, and he might not be able to finish it before he might not be able to finish it, and that'll be a shame. And it is annoying because the books are basically the books finish when Jon Snow gets his throat cut at the wall. So he basically becomes Lord Commander, and he basically gets his throat cut, and it doesn't end just there. Like, the very last scene is basically Tywin Lannister's brother, Kevin Lannister, gets killed by Varys, and it's basically the guy called Little Griff, who's like, is it Little Griff? It's been a while since I read it. So there's another character who's not in the series, who's basically he is somebody who is potentially heir to the throne, and he's sort of invading Westeros with his army. Dany has basically disappeared off on one of the dragons, hasn't been seen since, and that's where it sort of kind of ends. Varys kills this guy, and the other army invades Westeros. Dany's not there; she's sort of off on Drogon, and I think he's sort of realized that there's a lot more still to go on, and is 2 books going to be enough to sort of kind of wrap it up properly?
I mean, and that's kind of one of my concerns about the 6th season of The Expanse, because there's a lot of plot they need to kind of to tell like for the 6th season, because it really condenses a lot of story into 6 episodes. Now, admittedly, the sixth and final episode of that 6 episode season is going to be essentially movie length.
Right.
But still a lot of plot that needed. I mean, like, there's the amount of like stuff they need to unravel within Marco Inara faction, and they're not really kind of investigated the whole kind of links he has with Mars, which needs to kind of exploring. And so it's going to be to see how they manage to condense that amount of plot into about 6 hours approximately.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those things. I think when it comes to sort of writing a series or a film, and I appreciate, you know, with the comic books and stuff of Walking Dead, there's a lot in there, and they're trying their best to sort of kind of go along those lines, but I think there's like a happy medium between exposition and just filler, and there's certain ways you can do stuff without sort of cutting out sort of important things. And I think with Game of Thrones especially, they had a lot of complexity and then they dumbed it down, and Disney went, let's just sort of cut out these characters, let's do this quickly, get them out of the way and stuff. And it's like they should have carried on, you know, like
maintain that complexity.
Yeah, and you know, they could have done it, you know, just added 2 more seasons maybe, and sort of kind of given some of the characters a bit more of a better send off, or, you know, a bit more,
just greater depth and you know, exploration of the character, not just they forgot about the giant navy.
Yeah.
Okay.
like George R. R. Martin he's a bit odd in his writing in that you don't get battle scenes really in his books. He will spend a page just going, and like the Knight of Flowers, Loras, he basically, there's just he's dead in the book. He basically he gets killed at the siege of it's the Dragonstone. He just gets killed. He gets killed, and that sort of thing is just like, and he dies, and that's sort of it. Whereas he will spend ages describing somebody's hair or what they're eating, and you know, and things like that. So it's a bit odd that he won't sort of describe battles very well. But Joe Abercrombie's battles are fucking awesome, by the way. Yeah. He's so good at that. But yeah, so I think it's. I don't know.
The need, especially with the TV series of Game of Thrones, they needed that balance. They needed to maintain that complexity. I mean, I've not watched Walking Dead since the end of the first season because it was just becoming misery porn. There was no levity. There were no moments of happiness. Yeah, which is what the comics do. I mean, the comics lasted for well over 100 issues, and I've read them all, and I've really enjoyed them. And the secret to their enjoyment was basically it didn't focus on the gore, on the horror. Basically, it was a soap opera with zombies. Yeah, it focused on the character, their emotions, their relationships with each other, with occasional zombie in the background. But it kind of added that you need one, and you kind of one without the other. And what Walking Dead was, it just kind of focused on the gore and the horror. That was their focus, to kind of really focus on that. There was kind of their drama, but it just felt contrived.
Yeah, it just got a bit too formulaic for me. Like, I loved it, really loved it, and then I just remember watching it with my housemate, and I can't even remember what season I got up to. It was just like Negan. They were basically taking on Negan, I think, and
so around 5th season, I think that would be
something like that. Yeah, so they were taking him on and stuff, and it was just getting to the point where it was just. I think the last one, I think, was the series where Carl dies. Basically, that's the last season. Yeah, so that's the last season I saw, and it was just getting to the point where it was just like, you know, they have a good episode at the start, then it's filler. People I don't care about don't care. Too long.
mid-season high point, and
Yeah.
then more filler,
Yeah.
and then climax at the end.
Yeah. And then it's just like, it's like, find happy place, shit happens, something really bad happens, then they move on, and then the end's like, find new happy place. And then it's sort of like, they kept on doing it, and it's just like, and it was just, I did not care about the filler at all. The secondary characters had zero investment in. I kept on saying to my housemate, I was like, they don't need this many episodes. They should shorten them down and just have a bit. I don't mind a bit of exposition with these characters, but not an entire episode about that.
That is, much of this is due to the vagaries of TV budgeting and narrative structures on television. For example, like to constrain the budget and not go completely overblown, they have to kind of stick to one specific location each season. For example, like the prison in the third season. Now that was just that just featured quite heavily in the comics, but they kind of based that season in that prison there. So they didn't have to kind of go elsewhere. They could just base everything there and kind of keep a very tight control of their budget. Similarly, kind of like back in the 90s and 2000s, it was typical to have 20 episode season. And because that was the standard expected season length of a TV series. Now, thank goodness for streaming, because now we're kind of getting shows of like 6 episodes, or like that are not the kind of standard 42 minutes, which an hour's worth of television, including adverts. So now they can tell much more stories and not be constrained by the necessity of networks. They can tell the story they want. And now it's the 6th season episode, the 6th episode season is becoming a thing. I mean, again, one of my favorite recent shows is Into the Night, which is like 6 episodes for the first season and same for the second. And there's a really good story.
Well, the thing is, that's sort of a very, British comedy, sitcoms and stuff have been doing that, like Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
Like, you think about The Office, and you think, oh, that must have had loads of it, but there wasn't. There was, like Red Dwarf's the same. There was 6 episodes or so for each season.
Picked Up Files was the same. 6 episodes. Also, one of the greatest kind of pieces of vampire hunter stories, Ultraviolet from back in the 90s, and be on, I think it was BBC Two. 6 episodes. That was it. No series after, just 6 episodes. That was it, and it told exactly the story they needed to tell.
Yeah. So with comedy, I'm not as precious about sort of comedy because it's mindless in certain ways and stuff. So I don't mind sort of like The American Office. I think is really good. So I don't have an issue with it. I don't mind that there's like 20 episodes or so a season and stuff. Big Bang Theory, things like that. I don't sort of because it is mindless in a way, and you can just sort of enjoy the laughs and just sort of get on with it. But if it's anything I want to be invested in, I don't want just loads of filler and stuff. I want something a bit more, and so it's like
condensed. You want something condensed,
So it's like the Frankenstein Diaries, with Sean Bean in it. There's 2 seasons of it, and there's like 6 episodes each, and it's really good. It's a shame they didn't sort of carry it on, but there's lots of things where it's just like things like that you can condense down into slightly longer episodes. Just fewer of them, and then you get
again going back to the Expanse. I mean, that's kind of like the next season's going to be 6 episodes long. I think the second and third season was 13 episodes long. They kind of adjust the season to match the needs. Now, I'm not entirely certain that 6 episodes is going to be enough for this big season, but we'll see what happens. And I mean, it's almost telling that the second season, the big climax in the middle, was essentially it ended the story continued from the first season and started an entirely new story midway through the second season.
Yeah.
And actually, I would think fast forward as well for 6 months, because
it's like the first 3 seasons is basically the main storyline, inverted commas, and then 4th and 5th are a new storyline.
It's very much so. Yeah, that's very true. Basically, like it's kind of what does the Ring Gates do? How has things changed? And we see what's happened in in the Ring Gate, especially in the 4th season, and then the 5th season is like, what does this mean for the for our solar system? When we can go into all these other solar systems, and you see it's changed from how it was in the first season.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. I think we've waxed lyrical about the Expanse for long enough, and books and stuff. Though I feel like we've had a lot of good writers on. We need to see if we can try and nab Joe Abercrombie.
I can approach him. Agent Tchaikovsky is going to have a new Games Workshop book out.
Gene Stealer Cult one, which is out soon.
Next year, and he has said he will come back on the podcast and tell us about it.
Awesome. Yeah.
Once it's been released. Also speaking to Laura Morrow, who's a previous guest, and she's now a games writer for a video game company. So, and she said she's going to come on and talk about writing for the first time, because we had her on last time and all we talked about was wrestling and science fiction.
That's right, we did.
Which completely but she had a great time. She really had an absolute blast, and she's really looking forward to joining us again to talk about writing this time.
I wouldn't mind getting Gav Thorpe back on again, because he's just written The Wolf Time, which is the third book in the Indomitus series and stuff.
Definitely.
So that would be quite good. I haven't read it yet. I've got it. I got the limited edition version of it, but I haven't read it.
Nice.
Yeah. So that would be good. And it's a good segue into our sort of kind of final little part of this chit chat going on to about gaming, Warhammer and such. I've decided to sort of, because like 9th edition Warhammer came out sort of start of lockdown effectively, and I used to do tournaments quite a lot with 8th edition, and then when 9th came out, things changed a fair bit. A lot of the units that I used were nerfed the fuck, and I was just like, right, well, I'm not going to be bothered with it. But I had a game with my mate Phil the other day at Element Games and stuff, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to start playing this again. And as much as I think 40k, there's like a love-hate thing with a lot of players and stuff, because some of the rules are just infuriating. Why they don't have alternate activations is beyond me. Like, every good game that I play, A Song of Ice and Fire, the tabletop game, is phenomenal. It's got, turnabout activations, Infinity turnabout activations. There's a lot of sort of good games, turnabout activations, that makes you feel like you're a bit more a part of the game. Whereas in 40k, you're there, you set your army down, and if the other army's got enough shooting, they're all dead turn one, and you're just like, right, okay.
I mean, I like in theory, I like Infinity.
Yeah,
but the introduction to it, they don't have a great way of introducing players to it. I mean, I bought a batch slot and I had no clue of units online, and I had no clue what I had. There's no kind of unit cards or anything to kind of ease of identification.
Well, yeah, I think there's actually enough. Like I've got a couple of friends in our gaming group who are champions. Like, they play it quite regularly now, and to be honest, I was a bit indifferent to it, simply because I'm going through the stage at the minute where it's like, I've got too much stuff. I just don't want to sort of get, I'll talk about that soon, but like, I don't want to sort of carry on with any more new games and stuff like that, because I've got too much sort of, coming in, and I'm just not going to play it. But we played a sort of a beginner's game on Tabletop Simulator. And it's the concept's really good. So it's like small. It's sort of like Malifaux, or like
It is a small unit tactics. Isn't it? It's a very tactical game.
Yeah, small units, but it's like
skirmish.
You basically each person within your force gives you an activation, but you don't have to use all those activations on those people. You can use the activations on the same person over and over. So you can literally stick some guys on Overwatch, and they do fire. So like, if people walk, it's like in 40k, if somebody walks in front of you, there's no Overwatch anymore. Like, it does, in Necromunda, you can get something like that, but in the regular 40k, you don't get that. Whereas in Infinity, your guys can be somewhere, and if somebody walks in front of you, you go, well, within their turn, you can shoot at them. So it's like, you're always a part of the game instead of waiting for somebody to do stuff. And it's good. You can literally just go, well, like when I played, I had a couple of guys, and I literally, half of my guys sort of stayed behind, sort of doing an Overwatch thing on the sides, and the main sort of kind of like close combat guys went up the flank, and I just used all my activations to move them up and sort of start doing stuff. And it was good because like when I was doing that, it's like, well, my guy can see your guy through the door, and he was getting shot at as he did that. And it's a concept was really good. And you know, there's like stealth activations and things in it, and you know, I don't know a lot about it, but my friends love it. And if there was a game, next game I'm going to sort of kind of look into, it would probably be that, because they seem to
it's a game I really want to get into because it's a game based a lot around maneuvering and cover. It's not about who has the biggest gun, it's about who can outmaneuver the other without getting shot by Overwatch. Because that's the critical factor of it. Like, no, basically any unit is in Overwatch unless it does something.
Yeah, and alternate activations is it. You know, there's a lot of games, and it's like 40K's been doing it forever. Like, I don't think they've ever done alternate activations from what I remember. Like, I think Fantasy dabbled in it. Well, not Fantasy, Age of Sigmar dabbled in it, but you know, 40K, it's always been a case of you deploy, you know, you get one about, the only sort of turnabout is when you deploy your guys, but then it's literally you move everything, shoot everything, charge everything. And as much as that sort of works if you're doing well, if you're the guy on the other side who's just had half of his unit shot off the board turn one, it's upsetting. And I appreciate you can still win the game, but it's just like, you know, I spent ages building these guys, painting these guys. I kind of want to use them. I don't want them just to be removed from the board within a turn. Whereas if you have alternate activations, you feel like you can use any of the guys, and they're not, you know, there's no fear of them all dying. Like, I play Song of Ice and Fire tabletop game, which is a rank and flank a game, and you know, you don't have that fear that your guys are going to die straight away and stuff, because you can, and because it's alternate activations, it's like a chess thing. So you'll move a guy forward, and then you go, right, well, so you get to a point where you're in engagement, you're about to engage with them, and you're going, right, I'm going to do this. And you're like, yeah, but if I do that, he's got an activation next, and he'll just flank me. But then I'll flank him doing that, but then he'll do that. And then you start second guessing yourself. So it's kind of like chess, and you're starting having to think moves ahead. I really like that. I think it's a really good idea. Whereas in 40K, it's literally just blast away. I appreciate there is a lot more to it, and it's becoming a bit more competitive now. There's a lot of channels that use sort of how do you do the tactics and stuff, and it's all about thinking about, you know, optimizing your army, achieving objectives and things like that. But I like the sort of being able to sort of counter a maneuver instead of, you know, just
basically if you are kind of the tout and you have like the you go first, a very shooty army shooting another army, they're going to decimate them. Marker lights and railguns.
But the thing is, like 40K, because it's so big and there's so many things, and they're not very good at sort of testing their game testing's a bit naff. Like, and I think this is what what they are doing is, if something becomes too strong, they do change it now. They do change it quite a lot, and it annoys people. So, I had a really good unit, and they've nerfed it, but that's a good thing. But it's like, you always get people who break stuff. So, like, the current meta is like Hive Guard, stick them all in a building and sort of shoot out of line of sight, because they can shoot without line of sight. But the thing is, with new match rules, you can't shoot anybody on the first floor. So they can sit there, not be targeted, but target you. So they're sitting there, and all they need to do is stick a bunch of gaunts or something around them, so they're not going to get charged at, and nobody's going to deep strike in near them. And they just sit there, and they're just blasting away with no fear of being sort of kind of touched. And you're like, well, I can't do anything against that. And that is slightly frustrating when you got stuff like that. Like, people will argue that, you know, that's just them optimizing their list and using the rules and stuff, but there's a difference between rules as written and intention of play.
Spirit of the rules.
Rules as intended. So there's always an argument, and especially in all the 40K groups, it's like, you know, you get it in certain other war games and stuff like that, but you get it very much so in 40K. There's rules as written and rules as intended, and everybody, you know, a lot of the people who are competitive, it's rules as written, and it doesn't matter how it's meant to be intended. If that's the way it's written, they will use that advantage and stuff. And in the end, if it's, you know, it's becoming more of a sport now. You go by the rules as written. But there's like this whole thing like it's meant to be a game, it's rules as intended and stuff. Certain things, there's no way, that's ridiculous. Why would you do that? Or that's just ridiculous. Yeah, but that's just the way it is, and then it's just like yeah. So there is that argument, and I think that's because 40k is quite contentious, and I think there's certain things they could do to make it slightly less contentious. It's just they've not done it. Like, and alternate activations, they don't seem to be
that becomes when it's alternate activations, it becomes less turn-based game and more kind of real time in a sense, because essentially everything's moving at the same time. Then rather than one player move an army, another player move an army, it's less disjointed.
Yeah, well, I think it's like I haven't seen the Apocalypse rules recently, but they have something similar. It's a bit more advanced in that the Apocalypse rules, it's like you shoot and you destroy stuff, but you don't take the units off. You put little tokens on to show where damage is. Then they do their actions and they shoot. So that's a good idea. So it's like everybody is shooting at the same time as it would be. So that and I don't even know why they wouldn't do something like that in 40k itself. It's just like, okay, you make your moves and you shoot and you do damage, and then they therefore make their moves and shoot.
Well, and that's kind of like a holdover of the initiative rules, where the person who had the highest initiative went first and was able to kind of get the first shot off.
Even that, it was odd because I was thinking about that literally yesterday, man. I was thinking about they used to have initiative rules within it, and up to 7th edition there was initiative, or was it up to 6th edition where they had initiative? Well, basically, I can't remember exactly what edition it was.
That's like that 4 mental stats essentially, didn't they?
Yeah, so
leadership, initiative, and willpower, and something.
And initiative, as I appreciate they've taken it out because they want to sort of streamline things. But initiative was good because it was literally like, it didn't automatically mean that a bunch of Space Marines would charge into a bunch of Eldar. Now, Eldar are weaker, but they're faster, and the whole idea is they'll get the attack first. And it's just like, because Space Marines have better armor and blah blah blah, and it's just like the initiative thing made it slightly more sort of balanced, and there should be like an initiative, I think, in certain ways. Like, even if they don't do turnabout, initiative would be a better.
This was a turning point for 40k. I mean, they went from being a skirmish game to being a mass combat game, and kind of streamlining the entire kind of the characteristics of each unit. So it's just like one mental stat, leadership, rather than being intelligence, initiative, willpower, and leadership. They kind of went from being unit based to squad based.
Yeah, and the one thing that's always annoyed me about skirmish games going big, and there's a few of them I've done similar stuff, is that the scale of them, like, for me,
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Yeah, for me, like 40k, Warhammer 40k, and this is why I like Epic so much, and that's why I like, because
Epic was designed for mass combat and massive armies.
It felt, and there's the thing is, there's a Facebook group which basically does fantasy, it does Star Wars Legions, but it does everything that you've got, but it does it in 6mm. And so you can have what is a real battle in these things. Like, you look at all the we keep going back to 40k because obviously it's so big, but you think about 40k, and me as a child growing up, and I was into 40k from Rogue Trader from day one. My dad got me Rogue Trader, so I was there from pretty much day one.
Likewise,
and for pretty much sort of all the artwork and stuff like that, it's not small sets of Marines sort of fighting against small sets of orcs or Xenos and stuff. It's massive battles with and you see all the dioramas in Warhammer World and stuff. There's these huge, like, there's titans and there's knights and there's tanks and flyers and stuff like that. But as an individual person who's playing, you don't get that really, because you're generally going to play a 2,000 point battle, and you're going to get to use, like, my current list has 1, 2, 3, 4, like 6 or 7 squads in it and stuff, and it's because everything's quite expensive.
Yeah, but think about it though. When Rogue Trader first started up, your typical army was like 1, 2, maybe 3 squads, a vehicle if you were lucky.
Yeah.
It didn't really consider vehicles until much later, and even then you could have like a a bike or like a rhino.
Yeah, well,
Or
flyers didn't come in until 6th edition, so you didn't get
sorry,
flyers, and you
yeah,
didn't get
no,
planes and stuff until it's a
no,
6th
no. I'm
edition.
talking like the hover,
Yeah,
vehicles. But again, as you say, like it's they're kind of looking at mass combat, and they're trying to take a system designed for skirmish and into mass combat, and it starts to show its limitations.
yeah, and that's they've got Titanicus, and for me,
Yeah,
like they keep on saying that there's going to be no Epic again. It's just like they're missing out on trick. Like if they brought back Epic, and because they've got Aeronautica. And they've
yeah,
got Titanicus, Aeronautica's planes, Titanicus. They're both the same scale. It's the same scale. All they need to do is bring out infantry and tanks, and you got Epic again.
yeah.
And you could do literally, you could have 40k as the skirmish game, and 40, and then Epic as the sort of kind of mass battle.
And that's how they did it, and it worked.
Yeah, and they should carry on. I just sort of, it's annoying that they don't do it. Like, I appreciate you can sort of, in theory, you could get other models and you could play the apocalypse rules on that and stuff. But it's odd that they, one, it's odd that they haven't brought back Battlefleet Gothic, especially with the success of like X-Wing and stuff like that. X-Wing and Armada, don't why they haven't.
And also to be fair, Battlefleet Gothic is doing fantastically well in the app market.
Yeah. So it's just odd that they wouldn't do that when they brought back games like Blood Bowl and stuff like that. Necromunda. So all these sort of like old school games, and they're sort of
But they're not brought back Dark Future. That's the one I want brought back.
Dark Future. All right, yeah. Well, it just it's. If they brought it back, I'd be so happy. Like, it's just, I get, like, I'm going through a stage at the minute where I'm downsizing a lot of stuff. 40k is going to get decimated. My 40k collection is going to get absolutely decimated. I've sold a load of stuff already, but I'm getting rid of a load of stuff because it's just like, I bought it because it's like, I'd love to have a big game where I got all these things. So it's like, I'm never going to be able to play anybody with that sort of thing, really. And two, I'm just collecting shit. So there's what they call a war boot in January at Element. And I'm currently, that's why it's all messy behind me, because I'm taking stuff out and I'm selling a load of stuff. So 40k, all my 40k collection. I'll keep my wolves, Space Wolves, though I am selling a load of stuff from that. I'm getting rid of a load of my armies. I'm also getting rid of a load of sort of like Kickstarters and stuff that I've never played. So I've got Kickstarters that have come in new, and I'm going to sell them again because I ordered them years ago and they've just come through, and I'm just like, I'm never going to play that. So I'm just going to get rid of it. And it's the ones that are single players, that can be single players, because I like being with, competitive with other people within a game.
Yeah,
and stuff.
well, I mean, like a single player game is fine. If I want to play by myself, I'll just like switch on the PC and play a game on there.
Yeah.
If I want to play with a board game, then I don't want to play with other people and talk about it, and because like I don't want to be flicking through the rules while I'm supposed to find out what I'm supposed to do next. If it is on the PC or on the console, all the rules are kind of under the hood, as it were. It's kind of how to play the game.
Yeah, I think because there's a lot of games recently where it's like it's cooperative, and I don't mind cooperative games, but I like it's cooperative against the board game. So I've got like a game called Reichbusters, which is over there. It's awesome models, really nice models, and it's basically weird World War II. You go in, deal with Nazis. It's kind of like
sound like Tannhauser.
Yeah, it's kind of like Wolfenstein sort of thing, but
very Tannhauser.
Yeah, so you sort of you go in but it's literally like kind of like zombie side. You make noise or you do things and they come towards you and stuff like that. And it's not a bad game, but I don't have as much investment in it, like in Descent, which is over here. Where well, at least in the first editions, the second editions, you play against an overlord, and the overlord's effectively the dungeon master, but it's not like in
is the Dungeon Master an app in this case, or is it?
No, in the third version, right? So the first two editions, it's basically the Overlord is somebody who is another player, and I generally like playing the Overlord. Like, as much as I don't like playing the bad guy, I love fucking with people when it comes to the things like that. And it's the same in Imperial Assault, which is the Star Wars version of it. You are actively trying to compete against them as much as the Overlord is unlikely to win, but he
Yeah.
can make it very hard for you, and that's a good thing because it makes it challenging for the other people, and it's another person challenging them. It's not an app which can't sort of second guess you and stuff. It just goes through certain things, and apparently from like Shut Up and Sit Down, who like do reviews for board games and stuff, they got a good sort of YouTube channel. They reviewed Descent the 3rd edition, and I was thinking about getting it, but I'm not going to now, because as much as it's pretty and it's got a lot of nice miniatures and scenery and stuff, it's purely cooperative against an app, and I don't want to play against an app. I want to have somebody
you want the kind of full-on player versus player experience.
Yeah, it's like I got like Fantasy Flight seem to be doing this a lot, and I kind of understand why they're doing it, but they did it with like the Lord of the Rings, the recent Lord of the Rings game.
They've done it with Mansions of Madness.
Yeah,
and it works really well though, because they optimize because they have like background music.
Yeah, but the thing is, for me, if you're playing with an app, you might as well just play a computer game. It doesn't. That's sort of.
I can see where you come from in that one.
Yeah, so it's just like, why would for me, it's like.
In that case, and have you played Betrayal at the House on the Hill?
No, I don't think so.
That starts out as cooperative. Basically, you're kind of like wonderful characters exploring this haunted abandoned mansion, and then, as things unfold, you kind of encounter doom tokens, which can increase the doom tracker. And then once a certain limit's reached, the doom happens. And that point, based on whose turn it is, where the doom occurred, and the doom token, any one of a kind of over 100 scenarios takes place. And one of the players becomes the traitor.
Okay.
So it goes from initially being cooperative and kind of turning over cards and finding out what things are and kind of getting it.
Sounds a bit like there's a game called Nemesis.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, it's kind of like Aliens, but it's cooperative, but you've all got your own sort of kind of things that you need to do.
Agenda. Yeah, basically, but the traitor becomes the enemy.
Oh, okay.
And they become, it's not just like you don't have like an agenda, you are the enemy. And like basically it goes from being a purely cooperative experience to being a one player versus all.
Yeah. Well, I see. I like that. I like there being thing about, as much I play computer games and I'm happily play against a computer and stuff like that. But even in computer games, I would prefer to play against somebody than a computer, because I like the idea of a human. The human being
is unpredictability.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, so when I play as the Overlord in Descent and stuff, I know I can't win, and I'm not out to win, but I'm out to really make it hard for them and stuff. So I'm not going to just let them sort of kind of do certain things. I'm going to try and make it hard for them and stuff, and because that makes it a more engaging sort of game, I think, and stuff.
Yeah, and it's more satisfying when the players win. They've had a really tough battle rather than just walking through it and going, yeah, we won.
Yeah, and the thing is, like with computers, with sort of like apps and things, you can find glitches and you can find ways to sort of kind of,
and you can spot patterns in their
behavior.
Yeah,
exactly. You can, and it's just like, and that's what. And so I'm not really, so that's why I never really got into Zombicide. It was just like the idea of something, it sort of was working against the board game, but then it is just to a point where you can find a pattern, and I'm just not.
I've got Zombicide Invader, which is basically the Aliens version.
Yeah.
While still being legally distinct from Aliens, of Zombicide, and like that, I've actually got that to play. I've had it for quite a while because I got it just before the plague started. Yeah. And then one thing, never had a chance, but then I had a chance to play it, and then we kind of got it all out, and just looked at all this like, we don't have time to put all this together, do we? No, so we put it back together again. I just felt.
Well, there's a Marvel Zombies. Their new Zombies, Marvel Zombicide, which is basically Marvel Heroes Zombicide, which is cool. And I find myself, it's like, ooh, cool models. But it's like that sort of Frightbusters. The models are really good, good. And if they made it annoys me that they didn't do a skirmish thing that you could do with it and stuff, because it really, because the models are really good. But
I mean, that reminds me of like the Aliens, another close in the core game. It's a board game and is actually an Aliens board game and is really good by all accounts. But before you could play it, there are some fantastic miniatures of each of like the core characters from the films, of the Marines. But you've got to assemble them,
Yeah,
and like,
hate
and it's
assembly.
literally just, God damn it! I mean, literally, it's not just kind of put them on their bases. It is literally put all the arms together and the heads on and the bases on. So you talk about like 5 or 6 different components just to put one miniature together, and you've got dozens of the bloody things. And it's so frustrating because I really love Aliens, and it's a great game. I've read the rules, and it's like, yeah, okay, this makes a lot of sense. But you've got to put all this stuff together before you can actually even play it. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
I can't be honest.
that's the one thing that gets me. Like I've got that Aliens game, but I bought it secondhand with all the guys built.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I was like,
do you want to swap?
no, I bought them. It's like, like I like making, but like I've spent the last sort of like day making some models. I don't mind sort of kind of doing it, when I'm not thinking about anything else. But if you want to play a board game, it's like the Silver Tower, Warhammer Quest, and things like that. And it's like they come in sprues. You're like, oh, I don't want to sort of kind of clip these out.
In this day and age of 3D printing,
yeah, I just want to fucking.
It's very easy just to kind of. You don't need sprues now.
Yeah, I want to play. I don't. It annoys me. It's like as a child as well. I reckon that, Games Workshop have been doing it forever. So like Advanced Hero Quest, it was sprues and things. A lot of their games came on sprues, and it used to annoy me as a child because I got a board game and I wanted to play it and I couldn't because I had to build these things. And as a child, I wasn't overly capable of doing anything in it properly, and my dad wasn't really that interested in putting together a million models for me and stuff, so it's like so I didn't get to play these games and stuff.
And now as adults, when we've got limited time, it's just like I don't have the time to spend to kind of put all this stuff together. I mean, I appreciate like punching out tokens, fine, that doesn't take as long. You can like stick a film on and just kind of punch out some tokens and you're done. I mean, the new Dune board game, a game of conquest and diplomacy, which looks really good. And the kind of Guild Wars I kind of learned from this and said, well, we're not going to have any models. It's just going to be all token based. Fine, works.
It's a slightly faster paced version of the older version.
The streamlined it a lot, apart from the name, which is still huge.
So because it basically used to be it used to be like 3 to 8 players or 3 to 6 players or something like that, and you kind of needed more players, where you can apparently do 2 players in this version.
This is purely 1 to 4 players, and it shows. And it's really nicely condensed and streamlined. And looking forward to introducing my local game group to it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so the one good thing is talking about Games Workshop games. I suppose it's not a Games Workshop game. I got Hero Quest, the new version.
At last.
But see, this is not the one that I was sort of.
No,
I guess
it wouldn't be.
This is the Hasbro one, so it's turned up. So the Hasbro one's turned up, and it's literally just Hero Quest as I remember it, with slightly different art, but everything comes, pre-made, everything's in the little space, the furniture's the same as it was, it's all sort of like really sort of cool, the board looks as it was and stuff, really sort of very nostalgic.
Now so you've basically you about 5+ years ago ordered the 25th anniversary edition.
Yeah, I did.
And then you can now you go the 30th anniversary editions come out, and you've got that, and you're still waiting for the 25th anniversary edition.
Yeah, the 25th anniversary edition, which has gone into litigation hell.
Just at this point, get your money back.
Well, you can't. They've got a lawsuit. They've got a lawsuit. So basically, it's a very convoluted and long story. But basically, many years ago, 25th anniversary, they put it on Kickstarter, but because the Hero Quest name was owned by Hasbro or MB Games, I think MB Games at the time, they basically went, you can't sort of have that, so it got cancelled. But because in Spain the license hadn't changed, they were able to do it on a Spanish crowdfunding thing. So I went through that so that I can still get it. And then all this litigation kicked in, and it's been 5 years, and I didn't get a copy. But recently, I got an email, and I'm a part of this group that's a hate group basically, where people are kicking off about it because they haven't got it. But basically, what's happened is the company who are doing it, called Game Zone, have turned around and said you can either wait for the newly branded version of Hero Quest, which is called Quest, but no, it's not called Quest. It's basically Quest written forwards.
Quest of Heroes.
It's called Quest. It's called Quest forward and backwards. So it's TSEET, and then Quest. So it's basically the Q's in the middle, and then Quest going left and Quest going right. So that's what it's called. They've renamed it, and they said you can have this version. It will come out soon, after 5 years, or you can pay a bit of shipping and you can have the Hasbro Hero Quest. They've agreed to send us some copies of it, and you can have that. And as much as I was like, I could get a second copy of it and get the Hasbro one, and then maybe give it to my brother. But then the thing is, I've been waiting for this other version, which the rules are slightly different. They changed the rules and things, and I'm just like, I've waited so long now anyway. And
it's a new game.
Yeah, and that money's gone in my head anyway, so it's just like, do I just wait for it? So I think I'm just going to wait for it and see what it's like, basically, and see what happens. It may or may not turn up. So basically, I've got my Hero Quest fix now. So I've got that Hasbro version of it, but the Q Quest or Quest, whatever it is, I don't even know how they sort of kind of pronounce it, but basically Quest spelt forward and backwards. I just guess it's just waiting to see what happens and stuff, and see if it comes through.
Also, another game I got recently from 3D Publishing is Twilight 2000.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of 90s role-playing game based on a kind of post-apocalyptic setting, during the Third World War.
Yeah.
It was very jingoistic and a bit kind of leaned towards a certain good nut demographic in terms of the player base, but the setting was really interesting.
Yeah.
And so I've got picked up that from Free League. I'm looking forward to kind of getting into that a bit more, and the kind of eating back on the jingoism. And obviously, you are playing military units, so there is some guns there, but the focus is more on the environment and the setting and and how the players interact with this kind of. It's like, how do you get a clean glass of water?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's looking more kind of the survivalistic elements and how do you survive in this area rather than shooting everyone else.
Yeah,
and then dying of dysentery. So that's really good, and the artwork again, as with all of Free League books, it's just fantastic. Really does. I think you can see the box up there, the Twilight 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really cool box, and it's everything in the box just to play.
You can just see the bow. You can just see the bow in that shelf there. You can see how heavy those books are, and just
whoops! I don't have to. I need another bookshelf.
Yeah, I was going to say that was going to break one of these days. It's going to go.
No, it's not. Because I can't. I don't have any more bookshelves. I'm running out of bookshelf space at this rate. Yeah, I mean, I've actually got a bookshelf next to my bed, which is all my to read pile, and I've filled it up with all the books I still yet to read. And it's just when I have a bookshelf dedicated to books I need to read, do you really need any more books? In the case of, but Charlie Johnson bringing out some new books. Yes, I do need some more books.
Yeah, books are something that I don't have. I can collect and not feel any shame because I like a good book. And it's these new sort of Horus Heresy ones and stuff. They bring out a limited edition one, which is kind of leather bound and it looks nice. And I've got those, and I like having something because it looks good in a shelf, and the artwork and stuff looks really nice. So even if I'm not reading it, I've got something pretty that look at and stuff. Whereas games, I just feel guilty when I don't play them and stuff like that.
I go for a cull every now and then, and I've kind of got a fair few games I've not played yet. And we've got Dune, the board game. Zombies I've not actually played yet. Vampire Heritage, Aliens, Another Glory. It's just but again, we have been in a pandemic, and things with the Omicron variant coming in. It's looking like it's not yet out the way, so fingers crossed for 2022. So like the opportunity to play has been very limited. But like then like things are calming down a bit, so hopefully I get to play Dark Future again, get to play War and Terror.
All right, yeah.
Have you ever played that? Good.
I haven't played it, but yeah, I've heard about it.
It's basically Risk meets Have I Got News for You?
All right.
Yeah, it's basically it's kind of like geopolitics of Risk and diplomacy, but with a very strong bit of the absurdity of geopolitics.
I've got Risk Legacy, which I bought ages and ages ago, which is basically a game you can only play a certain amount of times because it's sort of like it evolves every time you play it.
Yeah, and then like what do you do with board game afterwards? I mean, I know a few people have actually like mounted and framed their Risk Legacy board game afterwards, but they've not been able to play it. But okay, yeah, but I kind of want to play games afterwards.
So I've bought it, and I've never been able to bring myself to sort of doing anything with it, because I bought it because the idea was I was going to bring it back at Christmas, and me and my brother and dad would sort of like go through it and stuff, and we'd sort of each year we'd have something new to do. But obviously with my dad dying, it was just like I never could sort of kind of bring myself to sort of opening it and stuff, so it's just sat there.
Too many memories for you.
Yeah, so it's just sat there, and I'm like, don't know what to do with it and stuff. I don't really want to sell it, but it's just sat there not doing anything and stuff. Yeah. So I don't know. But yeah, there's lots of games that are like that, and I'm like I said, I've got a war boot coming up in January, and I've booked a table, and I'm just going to sell a load of stuff.
Well, if you ever want to get rid of any Tau, just let me know.
Any what?
Tau, any of the Tau troops.
I have a Tau army here, Pete. So I've just sold a Tau army, but I've got another Tau army that fully painted and very nicely painted. Nice. Yours for £300.
Tempting. Actually, one more thing I've got to show you. I was at Wales Comic Con last weekend.
Okay.
We got to meet Garrick Hergon, Big Starlighter, and Dennis, who played Wedge. Wedge Antilles.
Yeah.
Dennis Lawson, who played Wedge Antilles. And I think it's the first time I ever met Dennis. And
Ewan McGregor's uncle, I think. Ewan McGregor's uncle, I believe.
Don't know about that.
Yeah, there's definitely. Wait a minute. I'm gonna think. He's something that he is. He's like Ewan McGregor. It's Wedge, isn't it?
Yeah, played. Oh yes, he is. Yes, Ewan McGregor he's an uncle to Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, so because I remember him talking. He's just like he'd see his uncle. He'd see his uncle as Wedge Antilles.
Yeah. I mean, and I find it interesting. Like, people approached kind of Star Wars for one of three reasons: the space battles, or the lightsabers and the blasters, or the Force. Now, I was the former. I was in it for the space battles, and kind of like playing Wedge, Dennis Lawson became the face of the X-wing.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, especially
look at
like
the
when
size
you play
of that thing.
Exactly, but like when you kind of like I had a chance to kind of first play, the Star Wars role playing games like West End Games, like that D6 based system. The first kind I played was a Brash Pilot, X-wing, what I'm gonna do. Rogue Leader. Basically, I was playing Wedge in my version. And so it's funny got to meet Dennis Lawson, who played Wedge for 4 films, in the original trilogy, and then in the Rise of Skywalker, he was in the gunner seat of the Falcon.
Yeah.
And it's like I just love that little scene. It was like only about a couple of seconds, but it's like, it's Wedge. And that's like.
Well, I'm just like, what other films has he been in? Dennis Lawson there. He's
been in a fair bit actually. If you look at his IMDb listing, it's actually quite extensive. But also, while I was at World's Comic Con, I got to meet James Abar, who was the kind of artist and writer of the Crow graphic novel, which the film was based on. Like an idiot, I lent out my copy of the graphic novel to a friend who has never yet returned it, and So finally got to meet James Bond. Like literally the day before I was going, like my wife and I were kind of tearing apart the house trying to find my copy of the Crow. Then realised they've still got it. So I had to basically stop by and pick up. I had a chat with James, because there's a new edition of the new adaptation of The Crow coming out at some point.
Yeah.
And James said he's not involved in it in any way, shape, or form. And as far as he's concerned, the original 1994 version of The Crow is that's the film he wanted. That's the film it can never really be surpassed. And it's like this. I've been asked to be a creative consultant, but he said, just give me the check. But so I had to pick up some fantastic artwork of.
Oh wow! Nice.
Yeah, it's just a print, but I just love the artwork there. Because he's a purely pen and ink artist, but those covers are just fantastic. So yeah, I had to grab that piece of artwork and get it framed up on the wall.
Oh, right, okay.
That's somewhere.
He's in Hornblower. That makes sense. He's in loads of sort of TV stuff. He's actually he's quite prolific and stuff. It's mad. I've probably seen him in loads of stuff and not thought, oh, that's him. But yeah, okay, well, there you go. Brilliant. Okay. Gonna leave it there because we could probably banter on about sort of Star Wars and board games for a very, very, very long time, and I've been telling myself all weekend I should be cleaning out this room to get some stuff out of the way and putting some of the newer games in their place. This one up here, I'm just getting rid of it. I've just got it from Kickstarter after 3 years waiting, and I said I'm not gonna play that game, so it's just gonna go. So yeah, I need to organize my stuff and sell stuff, and then hopefully not buy anything more with it.
No, you will. I mean, I've got my plans for next week is going to be get some reviews of World's Comic Con. June, I've also got the second volume of give me a second.
As he goes. Wait. He's currently picking things off his top shelf, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, here's a book. Oh.
Yes, I was thinking Mansions of Madness, but no, it's Mountains of Madness.
Oh, okay.
The art book by, again, Free League. And just the artwork in this is just fantastic.
Amazing. That's the one thing, just for the art, that's worth it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like the original text by H.P. Lovecraft, but they brought in a new artist, and the artist they're using absolutely captures that kind of epic, desolate grandeur of the Arctic wilderness. I mean, his uses perspective and scale incredibly well. He uses people to kind of just as human objects to emphasize the scale of things. So you kind of look at it and it needs to be an A3 book just to kind of take in the sheer epic size of things. I mean, just stuff like that. Well, you couldn't really have that in an A4 or worse in A5. You need big, but just kind of sit back and look at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to be reviewing that fairly soon, and yeah, it's kind of hopefully getting all the copywriting done at some point.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. And if you've downloaded this and listening to it now, and if you are downloading it, tell your friends. Make sure they sort of download it too. Tell their friends and their friends and their friends. That would be. And
tell us what you think. I mean, let us know what you think about this, how we can improve it. What do you want to hear? Who do you want us to speak to?
Yes, exactly. Whoa, did we have a comment here? No, we didn't. There was just the other thing. Oh. Okay. So. Yes, so like Pete said, if there's anything you sort of want us to have a talk about, or if there's any people you want us to talk to, we'll try our best and talk to them. Pete generally has all the connections. He's our sort of guy who talks to people and gets them on and browbeats them onto our show. But let us know. Content at geek-pride.co.uk or Matt at geek-pride.co.uk, whatever you want, or check us on Facebook or Instagram or
Twitter, Twitter. I'm at Peter Ray Allison, and we've got at Geek Pride 1, and
Yep, just
hit us up there. Let's know what you think.
Yeah, let us know, and then we can, we'll just do what we can do and stuff. Yeah. So thanks very much, everybody. Much appreciated. I've been Matt Geary, and with me tonight has been Peter Ray Ellison.
Good night, everyone. Take care of yourselves and look after each other.